Yeah, we're so happy to have the Attorney General and Senators own flesh and blood right here with us. Harry, you
Yeah.
ought to be honored.
Yeah, we are honored.
We got you back here. We got him back here.
Yeah, in Orange County, we'd had 3 people there.
We're doing pretty good, Harry.
Yeah, y'all doing great.
Okay, I did want to give you a little biographical information about Harry. Many of you know Harry, grew up with Harry, but some of you don't. And so I wanted to bring you up to speed on Harry Wood. Harry is a native. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
If you can't, speak up, because it doesn't do you any good to come to something like this and you sit back there and you're frustrated you can't hear. So let me know if you can't. Same with Harry. I'll goose him up here. Okay. Harry Wood is a native of Hillsboro, the son of Mr. and Mrs. L.A. Wood, the last of 7 children. Boy, about 7 of them. Wow. He graduated from Hillsboro High School, attended Navarro College, and received a Bachelor of Arts degree from where? At the back? From where? Baylor University. Yeah, from Baylor University in history with minors in English, journalism, and political science. He married Helen Bruner, the daughter of Reverend and Mrs. J.W. Bruner. Reverend Bruner was the pastor of the First Baptist Church here at Hillsboro for many years. And at this point, I'll mention that he will be mentioned, and Karen Smith has worked so hard to prepare our 150th anniversary tomorrow and Sunday at First Baptist Church. And if any of you can make that, I think tomorrow at 6 o'clock for a very interesting history presentation on that fellowship. At any rate, he did marry the preacher's daughter, Helen Bruner, on June the 6th, 1965. They resided in San Angelo. She became pregnant in August, and in September, she experienced extreme joint pain, was diagnosed with lupus, lost her baby in February, and she died in March. At the dedication of the baby grand piano, which if you do go to First Baptist Church, you'll notice it's still in service. If you go up there and you look, there's a little plaque, a little monument on there, a little sticker on there, and it says, "In her memory." And when he came back to the dedication of that baby grand, he reestablished and met somebody he had known for some time, Dina Head. And the rest is kind of history. A short while later, after he returned to Hillsboro, he went to work here, and he and Dina began to date and eventually married. And where's Dina? Right here. So let's give Dina a hand. Thank you for being here. And they've been very good to me, and I appreciate both of them. And Dina works very hard to keep this man in line. And I want to thank them because this is not easy for him to be here tonight. He's been very ill, and he's really come because he loves Hillsboro, he loves the history, he loves this community, and I hope you'll return that love, and I know you will. Harry started his newspaper career. I want to talk about his newspaper career just a little bit. He started his career as a newspaperman at age 18 as the circulation director of the Hillsboro Evening Mirror. I guess there was a morning mirror too, huh?
No.
What do they call it, evening?
Who knows?
Evening Mirror.
That has call it something.
Okay. Later, he was appointed the city, school, and sports reporter of that paper. He then joined the staff of the Waco Tribune Herald while still he was a student at Baylor University. He covered the courthouse, and he covered politics. And tonight he's going to talk about 2 events that took place at the famous Andrews Cafe here in Hillsboro downtown. You'll see some of the artifacts that the museum has in here when you see the refreshments. So I think that's very interesting how much history took place at Andrews Cafe. One other important thing that happened about this first section is how the college was revived here in Hillsboro, and how that happened, and the power of the press to get that accomplished over a cup of coffee is going to be very interesting to you, I think. I don't know about now, but a few years back, I know that Hill College was the second highest payroll in this community. You think about that and how many years and where this community would be without that college. So this is a very important discussion, and it's very timely about Hill College. After graduating from Baylor, he completed his months of active duty at Fort Polk in the Army, and he then continued with his service in the Guard and the Army Reserve. His newspaper career spanned 3 decades, most recently as a newspaper editor, and his last assignment was as editor and publisher of the Orange Leader, where he was where the couple continues to reside in Orange. Besides Hillsboro, the Woods' adventure together included raising a girl and a boy, 4 grandchildren, and a newly great-granddaughter. Yay!
All girls.
In their 55 years of marriage, he says they supported him in many hours of good times and bad times as a newspaper editor and publisher. And Arthur, where's Arthur? Where's Art? Art, you know, that's not always an easy thing to be a newspaper. But for 55 years that Dean has supported him in that career. So he was editor and publisher. He's been a publications company owner and director of development and public information officer at Lamar Institute of Technology. His experiences at church include a Sunday school teacher, and I'm going to tell you, if you haven't ever sat in Sunday school, he knows his Bible and is a good church man. He was also
You didn't tell me you were lying already.
no, I'm reading what you wrote. And I can tell you he was a good choir man too. I enjoyed all the years we were in choir together. And his career as a journalist included the cities of Dallas, San Antonio, Hot Springs, Arkansas, Texarkana, Port Arthur, Orange, and Beaumont, in addition to Hillsboro and Waco. We are so honored, Harry, that you'd be with us.
Thank you.
And
My privilege.
and with your permission and his, I asked him to go ahead and do a paper for me, for us, and he did that. And I'm going to read his paper in his words, and then he'll make other comments that are not covered, perhaps, and then you'll be able to ask him questions. Is that fair? We all on board? Okay, we're going to talk first about Crawford Collins Martin. And these are his words, not mine. Crawford Collins Martin considered himself a country lawyer. So for the relatively new publisher of the Hillsboro Daily Mirror, Jim Barnhill, and Mirror reporter Harry Wood, to find Martin having his afternoon coffee at Andrew's Cafe was not unusual. Would you gentlemen join me, or does the press have more pending matters? Martin invited. To have the opportunity to have a leisurely visit with one of Texas's most important people was tremendous. State Senator Martin, a man who had been Texas Senate President pro tempore, had held other important positions in Texas Senate since he had been elected in 1956, had loads of influence in Austin. This was the summer of 1960. Jim Barnhill had moved to Hillsboro from Great Bend, Kentucky, or rather Kansas, and taken the reins of the newspaper August the 1st, 1959. He was anxious, particularly in retail business, to boost advertising in the local paper. The conversation quickly changed to the town's slow growth and questions of how to address the problem of how to catch up with other cities like Waxahachie and Cleburne that were of similar size in the same region. The two were experiencing expansion, and Hillsboro was not. Hillsboro could have a college if we could get it to pass a maintenance tax, Martin said casually, like it was some long-kept secret. How? Barnhill asked eagerly. Instead of killing the Hillsboro Junior College charter, said Martin, I've managed to keep it dormant all these years. What does that mean? Barnhill asked. It means that if people in the junior college district pass a tax, they could get the charter reactivated. It could have its college back for about the price of a pack of cigarettes a week. Senator Martin calculated. Cigarettes were then 30 cents a pack. Barnhill's enthusiasm for Martin's suggestion followed, and he immediately developed a plan to pursue a campaign to reopen the college. The first step was to use the Sunday edition of the Mirror to promote this golden opportunity for Hillsboro. Now I want you to think about, let me stop and interline something here. You talk about the power of the press on a local basis that affected all of us. This is history. So, the Sunday edition of the Mirror, he decided to promote the golden opportunity for Hillsboro. Barnhill wrote an editorial to awaken city leaders and property owners. Wood did an interview of Martin on history of the college. They chose to use the editorial to be the entire front page. It was set in a larger type size than the usual 12-point print size and centered on page 1, surrounded by empty white space to emphasize the importance. The city went crazy over the possibility. The Chamber of Commerce organized a special committee, and other groups joined in the effort. A new idea was tested: open the college district to the entire Hill County and change the name to Hill Junior College. The new district would encompass the Hill County school districts of Hillsboro, Abbott, Bynum, Covington, Itasca, and Whitney. Hillsboro Junior College operated continuously until July 1950, when it closed after an attempt to establish a county-wide college system had failed. The authorization to establish Hill County was issued in 1921 by the Attorney General of the state of Texas under the name of Hillsboro Junior College. The college first enrolled students in September 1923. At that time, there were only 2 public junior colleges in the entire state, and Hillsboro Junior College became the first municipal junior college to be chartered in Texas. It was also the first, now I wanted to ask you about this. It says here, it was also the first 4-year junior college in the country. What does that mean? How was it junior college 4 years?
It extended to where it gave a 4-year degree and was chartered to do that, and that was unique in its time. Didn't continue on because of the competition that it was given other schools like Baylor and University of Texas.
And I did not know that, so
Yeah.
that's news to me. Funny, but in the hustle and bustle of building an election and achieving an almost impossible task of getting not only Hillsboro, but 5 other school districts to approve a tax, Martin's role in that effort was almost forgotten. I want you to think about that, how close we came to his contribution being almost forgotten. But looking back now, it's astounding what a simple cup of coffee with friends can achieve. His importance, Crawford Martin's importance in state government only grew. The Hillsboro native had graduated from the University of Texas and then Cumberland Law School of Sanford University, passed the bar in '39, and returned to Hillsboro and practiced with his brother William and practiced law in Hillsboro. During World War II, he served in the Coast Guard. After the war, he successfully ran as the mayor of Hillsboro in 1948. You may have a future in front of you, Andy. I don't know. Martin was elected to the Senate in 1949. I mean, a political future. It was the same district in which his father had previously served. Martin rose to prominence in his 14-year career in the Senate, where he served on a number of committees, including finance. He sponsored legislation in insurance reform and securities regulation, and he was elected president pro tempore of the Senate in 1955. In addition, in 1957, he sponsored the state's first law requiring, and I didn't know what that was. Requiring what? I'm not sure. It says in Ray. Anyway, he sponsored something in that year, and it went on to become law.
Which one was that?
It says right here.
19 what?
1957, he sponsored the state's first law requiring something. You can think about that.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
He, he sponsored legislation in the insurance reform, and we mentioned that. And he was elected. We've talked about that. Regulation of lobbies. That's what
That's what it is.
He
Yep.
passed regulation of lobbies.
Right.
Well, good for him. Okay. Martin served in the Senate from 49 to 1963 when he ran for the Texas lieutenant governor of the Democratic primary. The next year, Governor John Connally appointed Martin as Secretary of State. Martin served as Secretary of State of Texas until 1966 when he ran for and was elected the Attorney General of Texas. His service in government illustrated his importance to Hillsboro to have him in one of the top three offices in the entire state, as well as the late Bob Bullock, a Texas Lieutenant Governor, also a Hillsboro native. Both Martin and Bullock were alumni of Hillsboro Junior College. Robert Calvert, also a former historian, was Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court. Martin died December the 29th, 1972. Bullock, June the 18th, 1999, and Calvert in 1994. Hillsboro got its college back on March the 3rd, 1962. A bond issue was passed for the purpose of building a new college campus. The college opened for business, as mentioned, in September 62 under a new name, Hill Junior College. The new college district was expanded by voluntary annexation of the Hill County school districts other than the original Hillsboro school districts. And it says here the district included Hillsboro, Abbott, Bynum, Covington, Itasca, and Whitney. I wasn't sure about one of those, but you probably know them better than I did. In 1974, the college opened an extension center in Cleburne, Texas, located in Johnson County. The Johnson County campus now includes 6 buildings on 32 acres of land and has more than 1,000 students enrolled in both day and night classes. In 97 and 8, citizens of Alvarado, Cleburne, Godley, Grandview, Joshua, Keene, Rio Vista, and Venus approved a local maintenance and operation tax for purposes of supporting the campus of Hill College. The college dropped junior from its name in 1985 and became Hill College. And Harry says the current enrollment's around 4,000. I had no idea. Tuition's about $2,900. On the campus of Hill College is also the Texas Heritage Museum, which is people interested in the history, you ought to be very pleased about. And that has 3 divisions, galleries and collections, the Historical Research Center, and the Hill College Press. And he says here, this is his last word, just think how valuable that 35-cent cup of coffee has been, and how important Senator Martin has been to this town and this community. That's his paper. Now then, you go forward and add whatever you want to add.
Well, one thing I might add, and Will, I think you probably can answer this question. You've probably heard of the Hillsboro Mafia, haven't you?
No.
Oh no, never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Who was the Hillsboro?
Get me in trouble.
Well, just tell me who the Hillsboro Mafia was.
I don't have a clue.
And you're not going to embarrass Sherry over there. She knows what we're talking about. Well, in Austin, they had and this was after Bullock kind of got to his position, and of course y'all know Bubby Bullock was a very strong Texan. And if you've ever been to his museum in Austin, you can be proud. It's a great museum. But after he got in control of things in Austin, and I will tell you what, Bobby is a funny guy. He used to throw rocks at everybody in Hillsboro. And I don't know whether y'all read his book or not, but he admits having thrown balloons off of Will Bond's house. Will Bond had a kind of a portico, and there's a second up floor of that. And I don't know whether it's still there or not, but you could walk out there on that porch. And so he and I I can't remember who the person it was, but anyway, Flab Blunt would come through there delivering mail, and he would drop water balloons off on his Flab when he came up. Cut the corner around, cut the corner of Will's property. But Bobby was more or less the kingpin, and then Crawford was, he kept everybody in legal, you know. He was the legal man. And then Robert Calvert had been there for a number of years. I don't remember how many years he had been there by the time Bobby and Crawford got there, but three of them, they were accused of running everything in Austin, and it really wasn't that way, but they did. He mentioned that it's kind of unique that he went to Cumberland University, and I looked that place up, and it's now called Sampson University, and it's in Tennessee. And Sherry, you know any background on why he went there?
Well, I think, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I think if you could go there and finish law school faster
Uh-huh.
than going through the 3 years or whatever long it was, I don't know if you know, at the University of Texas, I think there was some loophole
Yeah.
or something that would get you through faster, and you still had to take a law exam
Yeah.
on that, so.
Well, he did a lot of unique things, in that he tried to pattern his life after his dad. And I didn't know his dad, but he must have been a great man, because he also was mayor of Hillsboro, and he also served as senator from the 12th district, which Crawford served, and he was a lawyer. Now, that's kind of unique that a person would follow that. And then, of course, Bill, and I call him Bill, his name was William, but we all knew him as Bill Martin around here, was a great lawyer too. And if you didn't know this, they had their law office is your office, right?
Well, one time it was mine.
Yeah, one time it was. Is it now yours, or is it Martha's?
It's Martha's.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
I got kicked out. I'm just teasing.
Another unique thing was that he died 3 days before his term as Attorney General expired. And he had a heart attack, right, Sherry? Yeah. Okay. Now, this unique thing about this college and the cup of coffee and everything, it was just astounding to Barnhill and I. And Barnhill, now bless his soul, I guess he's gone on to meet the Lord, because I don't ever know what happened to him after he moved to California. He hired me to go to Hot Springs, and from here, and I did that. And then he left and went to California, to Walnut Springs, California. I never kept track of him again. But
Let me stop you. His daughter, Diana Barnhill McCoy, is seated here next to you.
oh, okay, all right. Well, tell us a little bit about where Jim is.
Dad passed away last year.
Okay.
He was 92, but from from Walnut Creek, California, he wound up going up to Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
After Ypsilanti, Michigan, he went to Washington. Where Yakima, Washington. He moved there in 1980, right before the mountain erupted.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was the publisher until 1996. And then he retired. He took up a hobby of hiking, loved it. Passed away last year at age 92. Dementia.
Well, I'll be. You can see he wasn't stressed out like newspaper editors are. He didn't ever have a wheelchair, probably. Did he have a
No, he was good, but he had a lot of meetings over a cup of coffee in the newspaper.
That's it. We did.
We're so excited you're here. Yeah, thank you.
But now I can't. Let me say this. after I left here, I can't testify to a lot of things that happened in terms of the nitpicking things like the chamber and who did this and who did that, who was on second and who was on first and what was on third and so forth and so on. Y'all have heard that Abbott Costello thing. And, but it was carried on, let me say that. What we did, we kicked it off and everybody else picked it up. And I'm including the reporter in that too, okay? And J.K. Lane, many of you remember J.K. Lane Jr. Did a lot of footwork in trying to help get that college started. But it was a fairly easy thing to do. The big thing was getting all the Hill County people lined up. Cleburne went through really good. But you see what Cleburne got out of it, and if you ever been over there and see them buildings and everything, you'd recognize that they did get a great deal out of it. It's unique, though. It's unique in that they are a standing alone campus, although they're still connected to Hill College. Crawford, as Bob said, he did a lot in terms of consumer protection. He did a lot in terms of finance because he was on the finance committee. I really don't know how many years. Do you know, Sherry?
Well, I
Yeah.
was chairman for several terms, but I don't know.
No? But he was on it a long time, and he was author of many of those things. But let me tell you about two things he did that we haven't mentioned. One of them is that he was Texas and Louisiana fought for a long time over the border. And there's a river that goes down through East Texas. It's called the Sabine. And it kind of meanders around and starts up in East Texas, and then it bounces over a little further in East Texas, and then it comes back. But anyway, Crawford managed to get that boundary established and put into law. And now the Sabine River Authority, okay, which is an entity that manages the river, has authority over the whole river, even though part of it doesn't touch Louisiana. It starts up in East Texas and then meanders around and then comes down all the way to, to Orange. And that's where I live. The other thing he did, I'm trying to read my notes here. Oh, yeah. And this is a modern thing. He passed a bill that got the permission to sue the farmer over antibiotics. That's pretty revolutionary for a time back in the 60s when that was done. Here we are in 2024? We still don't have the control over pharma and antibiotics. And by the way, I'm on to buy an antibiotic right now. And when I get home, they're going to give me an infusion of antibiotics because this is not working. And so they're going to give me an infusion. Another thing that he did was he worked real hard on water control. Now, I don't know exactly particulars about water control, but I do know this, and back when he was in there, and I was in San Angelo, there was a lot of pressure put on the legislature about water control. And one of the things that still exists, and they're trying to, and is still trying to get something done, is to move the water from East Texas to West Texas. Never happen. It'll never happen. The only way it's going to happen is just fill up water in a little bucket and take it over there. 'Cause those farmers out in West Texas really want it, but the East Texas people are pretty strong. And you got Dallas and Houston involved in this. And the diversion is just pretty much impossible. But it still exists, even though they did pass legislation back then. All right. Questions and answers. Questions and answers here.
Put your hand down. No,
Is that what she's saying?
she's telling, put your hand down.
I can't talk without moving my hands. What are you talking about?
It's not, just don't put it in front of your mouth.
Okay.
Okay. Questions? This is your time.
It's time. Now, this was your guy. Yes, sir.
Did you work with Jack Loftus when I was here?
I heard Jack Loftus, that's all I heard.
Did you work
Worked with
with?
Jack and I worked together for a number of years. I started out at the Mirror as circulation manager and worked there about a year. And then Jack left and I succeeded him as sports editor. And he was the guy that was sports editor in 1955 when we brought Pug Gallagher back here. Anybody remember that? And he won district, he won regional, he won everything except state. And he got beat at Stanford, at Abilene by Stanford. And Jack was the sports editor that covered all that in 55. And then I succeeded him after that, and for about 2 years, I guess it was, before I went to Waco. I went to Waco in 60, 61, something like that. My memory doesn't serve me right, Art. I can't pull everything out of my mind. I have to go back and find my notes somewhere. But yeah, I was with Jack at least 2 years maybe, and even wrote with him. But he was a great guy and a wonderful person. I mean, I loved him to death.
Other questions?
Yes, sir.
Comment?
Pardon?
What year did you graduate from Hillsboro?
57.
Sorry?
57.
Sir?
Yeah. Yeah. We had the two great football teams, 55 and 56. And the 56 class graduated in 57. And,
Excuse me, my other probably taught you.
what's her name?
Connie Perry, she taught 6th grade.
Sixth grade, Connie Perry.
She might have been behind us. We had some old women teaching us back then.
She was here when P.T. Gallagher.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When he was the superintendent?
Sorry?
When he was superintendent?
Yes.
Okay. I'm working right now on a piece on Mr. Gallagher, and I'm having a difficult time running down dates. I'm going tomorrow, spend the time in the library here to see if I can find it all. But I'm depending on 3 guys to help me. That one of them lives here in Hillsboro by the name of Sam Crane. He's helped me a lot. And then Mike Curry, who was a quarterback of the football team. And then Pug's son-in-law, Robert Himmel. Yep. And Robert can't hear. Okay. And I tried to talk to him on the phone.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Did you ever write anything about when Crawford was governor for a day? They did the governor for a day deal. So he had everybody.
I remember it. I remember it, but I was in San Angelo then, and we were chasing Ben Barnes because we were going to make him governor. It didn't happen.
Other questions?
I do remember that, the governor that he put in, yeah, that was a big deal in
It
those
was a big
days.
deal to me.
It was a big deal.
Because
Yeah.
my daddy ran the cotton gin in Brandon for his mother. Of course, Crawford really did it, but that's who I'm with. And Daddy was right there in the middle of cotton season when they had this, so Daddy couldn't go. He was supposed to be on the cabinet. They had all these people in Hillsboro, got a title for a day too. And so instead of going down there for that, we went, I don't remember, I guess it was the next year, we went down there and we went swimming and ate lunch at Crawford's house. And it was just so impressive to me because the swimming pool was on the side of a cliff and you looked straight down. And I was 7 years old. It was just so impressive.
Well, Crawford was a wonderful man. And when my wife died, he and his wife came to San Angelo and called my boss, Houston Hart, and said, we need to spend some time with Harry.
That's great. Any other questions? All right, then one thing I didn't mention is that Crawford Martin was the father of Jim Martin
Yeah.
and Nancy, and I've met
Nancy.
them out, and we're so glad for his prodigy and for y'all being here today.
Jim used to have a Carver, didn't he? Jim had a Carver, didn't he?
Carver?
Yeah. Yeah.
Corvair
Yeah, we rivaled each other in those Carvers. I had one too.
was one of the first ones.
Yeah, mine was too.
Prompted him to buy that, but he did. I think John Standifer talked him into it.
Right. He did me too.
But that's the car he was in when he was in a car crash and lost the sight of his eye. And so you all may remember mostly the wore a patch over
Yeah.
his eye for many years.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened.
Well, you have anything to add?
And I think there was something like.
Well, anything else?
Harry, I've been trying to encourage Sherry to say that one of his most significant contributions was to take John Tarleton Junior College and make it a 4-year school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because today, in this part of the world, so many people take advantage of Tarleton.
Mm-hmm.
And you can thank Crawford Martin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he made Tarleton what it is today.
Yeah.
And, I could say a lot, but
Well,
Crawford Martin had I want to tell you this, in the state senate back in those days, he had no peer.
No.
There was not another
No.
man in that body, and in those days there
No.
were no women.
You're right.
But there was not another man in that body that had the respect that Crawford did.
No.
He was not a man to overuse words, but when he stood up by his desk in the Senate to speak, believe me, everybody paid attention.
He did. Yeah. Yeah, we did.
When that building was built when that Capitol was built and they outfitted the Senate, they placed a brass spittoon by every senator's desk. As time went on, people gave up chewing tobacco. But in Crawford's day, that brass spittoon remained in place. And he was the last holder of the brass spittoon.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I didn't know that. That's great.
Great anecdote.
Great story.
Okay, then are you ready to proceed on?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to proceed on with the Elvis Presley story. Again, at Andrew's Cafe is the scene. Like so many things in Hillsboro, Andrew's Cafe kind of comes down to a lot, comes to Andrew's. It was March the 28th, 1958. about 12:30 p.m. when I entered the once famous but now the former Andrews Cafe on Waco Street, now in intersections with East Elm and Hillsboro. It was a bustling little city then, with traffic on US Highway 81 and 77 converging north of town and serving as a resting place for weary travelers. The highways cut through central Texas, back then like the Sabine River divides
Yep.
Indiana from Texas, and released all interstate traffic to and from Dallas and Fort Worth through the midsection of Texas. The two major U.S. highways served as the major arteries for Waco, Austin, San Antonio, and Corpus. Today, it is all part of the massive Interstate 35 system, thanks to President Dwight David Eisenhower and the United States Congress, who initiated this tremendous national road program. A crowd of people were already collecting along the sidewalk in front of the restaurant to get a peek through the windows at what was inside. It was a different set from the initial lunch bunch of shoppers and courthouse and retail workers eating their noon meal this particular day. There was a heavy concentration of men in fresh-pressed, army-dressed blues. Be sure you see the picture of Harry with Elvis on the counter in there. I excused myself for pressing through the mass of people trying to get inside. One of the owners, Nick Andrews, unlocked the front door to allow me the chance to join Daily Mirror photographer O.J. Grizzle. "You doing the story?" Grizzle asked. A huge lump suddenly appeared in my throat. Then I said, "Yes," weakly, and he added, "Good." And he directed my attention to the far wall, and halfway down, in there was a chair. Wolfing down a burger was Elvis Presley. My eagerness to do a good job pushed me through the cafe toward the celebrity table, but before I could go too far, I was stopped by an Army major and two lieutenants. I identified myself and told the major I was there to interview Mr. Presley. He told me he wasn't sure they had enough time or if Mr. Presley would even allow it. "It's okay," Elvis said. "I'll talk to him between here and the bus." The bus was parked along the street from the Mirror at the U.S., I guess across the street from the U.S. Post Office.
Yes, right.
Both buildings have since undergone changes. Where the newspaper office stood is now a parking lot for the east side of Waco Street, and across the street on the west side is still the architecturally significant post office building that has become the city library. I was literally scared to death. It was my first newspaper assignment. How'd you like that? My first newspaper assignment. The newspaper depended on me to do the story. The rest of the staff was at lunch.
Hiding. They were all hiding out.
Leading the city editor, Mary
McBriar.
McBriar, to handle anything that came up. Quite by accident, the job of doing this story had become mine. I was beginning my second semester at Navarro Junior College. You remember Hill College wasn't existing. The newspaper depended on me to do the story. The rest of the staff was at lunch, leaving the city editor, Mary McBriar, to handle anything that came up. Quite by accident, the job of doing the story had become mine. I was beginning again my second semester and was just arriving after morning classes. I was 19 years old, who was hired in January to be the circulation manager. That was a fancy title for someone to hire newspaper carriers and get out mailed editions to several hundred subscribers. I was hopeful someday to be sports writer. While I waited outside the restaurant for this Army detail to finish its lunch and for whatever else they had to do, I framed in my mind a set of questions to ask Elvis, remembering the words of the editor of the Mirror as saying, "Keep it short. I have only a small hole for it." So I had to get something brief and fast. So Elvis answered the first question about why they were in Hillsboro. We're on our way to Fort Hood for our basic and advanced armored training. We just finished joining at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. That question and answer took us past the two building spaces, the Texas Theater and Griffin Printing. That left one building, First Federal Savings, and an alley and the bus. He told me the Army was treating him well, and maybe he'd even gained a pound or two. We talked about the movie King Creole, his newest album, and the military's restrictions on his performances and recordings while he was in the service. Then we were at the bus and the interview was over. A great deal was made of this event for days and even years to come. It started a siege of Elvis sightings, mainly often on weekends in Killeen, Temple, Waco, Austin, and even in Hillsboro again. The latter sightings had him being jailed on a driving under influence charge. You know, there's some thought he was in this jail. But there are no records or photos kept, weakening the authenticity of the story, and I kind of doubt it ever happened. The photo that appears on the page that you'll see in here, one from a collection that belonged to Catherine Andrews that hangs in the Hill County Museum on North Waco Street, shows Elvis third from the right and Harry Wood on his left in the photo. Others are Army personnel. We have never identified the man in the suit, however. So if any of you recognize the man in the suit, speak up. I made my deadline with my first story, but the headline writer stole my lead. Elvis Presley, Elvis Presley. Elvis was 22 years old when he and fellow soldiers, this is the story, it's in italics.
Yeah.
So this is your writing. Elvis was 22 years old when he and fellow soldiers were inducted into the Army at Fort Chaffee. He was slightly older than the typical 21-year-old, but his manager attempted unsuccessfully to get some sort of deferment or special treatment from Selective Service, the agency that supervised the draft. Elvis just wanted to be a regular trooper. He did seek permission to delay his induction into service until he completed filming the movie King Creole, regarded by critics as his best film performance. The Pentagon, too, had been in touch to offer Presley the opportunity to join Special Services, entertaining the troops without having to train as a regular soldier. This was known by many soldiers and veterans as the, quote, celebrity wimp out, end quote. After discussing each officer with Parker, Presley decided to join as a regular soldier. In Parker's words, quote, taking any of these deals will make millions of Americans angry, end quote. On January the 20th, 1960, Presley was promoted to sergeant. The Army held a press conference on March the 1st before Presley departed from Germany, where he had served since finishing training at Fort Hood in 1959. Asked why he chose the role of a regular soldier over a member of a service club, he said, quote, I was in a funny position. Actually, that's the only way it could be. People were expecting me to mess up, to goof up, in one way or the other. They thought I couldn't take it, and so forth. And I was determined to go to any limits to prove otherwise, not only to the people who were wondering, but to myself, end quote. On March, it'll be 1960, with his wife Priscilla in attendance, Presley waved goodbye to the fans and media of West Germany and flew home to the United States. On March the 3rd, his plane arrived at McGuire Air Force Base near Fort Dix, and at 7:42 a.m., Nancy Sinatra, RCA representatives, and Colonel Tom Parker were there to welcome him home, as well as a huge crowd of fans. 2 days later, on March the 5th, he was officially discharged from active duty, with his service officially noted as honorable. And that's the story of Harry with Elvis at Hillsboro. And now you go ahead.
All right. One thing is kind of different about all this, and some of y'all might remember. There was a great deal of animosity among people in the United States because he was not immediately drafted when he became 18 years old. He was 18 and let's see, it would have been 1957, I guess. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, to make long story short, he went 2 years back and forth with Colonel Parker, the Pentagon, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Army, all different ones trying to attract him into their service. And it was a service that some people, and you'll remember back World War II, Frank Sinatra, some of the bigger celebrities played on the fact that they were military men, but they were just going around singing at different places. Well, the Pentagon at first offered him a service contract, and Parker didn't want him to take it. And the reason he didn't want him to take it was a tremendous animosity toward him not having gone in already. So this went on for 2 years, and finally he agreed that he would go in after he completed his movie called King Creole. Now, the reason he didn't want to, of course, he was under contract when he started this movie. But this particular movie gained favor because the role that he played in that movie, and honestly, I didn't see it, I don't think. But anybody see it?
Yeah.
Anybody see it? All right. They say that that's the best he acted in his entire career. And a gentleman by the name of Nash described it this way: the performance that world famous actor did defies his potential. Okay? So they thought he did a better job in that movie than anything he'd ever done. And Elvis felt the same way. He felt good about it. And he really would like to have been a movie star instead of performer. Okay? Another thing that you don't hear mentioned very much is the fact that Elvis didn't want to be in the Army. Okay? Does that surprise anybody? Anybody get drafted in here? Nobody raised their hand. Huh? Pardon? You did?
Paul.
Okay. You got drafted?
Yeah,
You didn't want to go, did you?
didn't make any difference.
Didn't it? No, it didn't make a difference.
You're
But
going.
he thought that Parker was going to swing some kind of deal, and he wouldn't have to go because Parker kept telling him that he was working on a deal. And the problem was with Parker is that if the military gave him a service contract, they would own all of the rights to everything that he produced while he was in the Army. And Colonel Parker wouldn't get a dime. So that was the whole deal. That was the whole deal. That's the reason why it took so long for him to go through. That's the reason why Colonel Parker kind of pushed him into going the 2-year way. But Elvis himself now, okay, Elvis himself agreed that it would be better, and he wanted to just be one of the boys, okay? Go in just one of the boys. And he did. And he was well liked. And there's some, you can go online and read about some of this because there's some guys that I read the quotes online, and I knew these guys. He was out and about in Central Texas so much that some of the fathers in Central Texas got worried about their daughters. And like some of their daughters made their fathers uneasy. but a lot of that wasn't true. Okay, I know of one situation that was true, and the daddy went to Parker and told him, "You put a chain around that guy and get him away from my daughter." And it was true. I mean, he was trying to date the girl. Elvis was born in 1935. Anybody know where?
Tupelo, Mississippi.
Tupelo, Mississippi. And you can go to his house. In fact, Dina and I have been in his house. She doesn't remember it. But we on the same trip, it was a church trip, we visited Graceland, and then on the way back, we went to his home there in Tupelo. It's a nice, small bungalow house, but you can go in and visit if you want to. But his mother and dad were kind of different. Now, his mother died when she was, I believe it was, I've got it in my notes, but I believe she was 52. She had cirrhosis of the liver. She wouldn't stop drinking. And so she died, and it was a big crushing blow to Elvis because he thought, the world of his mother, and she was his, bright star. After he completed basic training at Fort Hood, he was allowed to bring his family down to Fort Hood. He brought his father and his mother there, and rented a house and had them live there with him while he was finishing his advanced training. Now, anybody know what Elvis did in the Army?
Tanker.
Huh?
Tanker.
Tanker?
Tanker, right. And he said he liked it because it was a rough and tumble thing. You ever been in one of those things?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, you came out, you felt like you'd gained 13 pounds, didn't you? With all that dust down there at Fort Hood. Oh, yeah, better than walking, exactly. But it's a crude thing to take it. Anybody heard of Black Monday? You know what Black Monday was?
The Depression, something?
I'm sorry?
The Depression?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with the rest. We're talking about Elvis now.
I don't know.
Okay. It was the day that he was inducted into the Army. and the people, that was their Black Monday, is they lost Elvis, and they didn't have him to sing to him anymore. His serial number was, by the way, if y'all want to, anybody think this is significant, y'all can copy it down. I'll just read it twice if you want me to. But I didn't think it was much. His serial number was 533-10761. I can't remember what mine was. In fact, I never really knew it, and they used to get me every time. They'd say, "What's your serial number?" Well, I couldn't remember it for nothing. Now, why was he in Hillsboro? Anybody know why did they stop in Hillsboro?
Eat a hamburger at Andrews.
Yeah. Okay. En route. Okay. Now, what happened is the Memphis draft board was in charge of drafting Elvis. And he had dealt with them off and on ever since he was 18 years old. And he'd go in and say, "Well, let me do this and give me a deferment until such and such, and I'll come in." Well, this went on for like 2 years, and then finally they said, "No, you're going to go, and you're going to go in January the 25th. Well, he came in, he cried to him. He said, "I've got this movie contract on King Creole, and and I can't go. And they said, okay, well, we'll give you until March the 24th. But on March the 24th, you're gone, buddy. Well, on March 24th, he and this other group of people, and I'll tell you, I couldn't really tell you how many people were in there, but it was probably between 20 and 30 soldiers that were on that bus. But here's their route. They got on the bus in Memphis, went to Fort Chaffee. Anybody know where Fort Chaffee is?
Arkansas.
Huh?
Fort Smith,
Fort Smith, right. And where's Fort Smith?
in the middle of nowhere.
We're in the middle of nowhere, right. You have to intentionally want to go to Fort Smith to go to Fort Smith. So they go to Fort Smith, and that's where they're inducted. All of them are inducted there. They get their shots. If you were ever in the Army, you didn't want to do that because they line you up and with the shots, and the guy with the machine stands. Several of them stand on each side, and as you go in to this building, they shoot you, bang, 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 and by the time you get in the building, you've lost about 2 pints of blood. I mean, it's running down your arms, and it'll scare the guy that's next to you to death when he sees these people coming in there bleeding to death. But anyway, that's what they did. They did all the shots. They got their uniforms and everything that you would process a person to go into service. So then, that's 2 days. The 4th day, they start to Fort Hood. So they came down through Hillsboro to Fort Hood because that's the direct route. And if you'll remember, we didn't have interstate highways back then. We had 81 and 77. And if that wasn't a sight for sore eyes, oh my goodness, traffic just on Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, you couldn't cross the street down there on Waco Street because of all the traffic that was on there. But they came down that way to go to Fort Hood. Now, when he got to Fort Hood, they assigned him to the 3rd Armored Division. And there's an armor section of that division. And as we were talking about, he fell in, and he was a tanker, okay? Now, tanker means he rode in an army tank, okay? But he liked the rough and tumble stuff. And some of the guys, and a guy by the name of Willie Fidel, who lived in Waco and had a restaurant in Waco for a while, he was a friend of Elvis. And he said that Elvis would come and visit him and cry, okay? Elvis cry. He would cry about being in the Army. He didn't want to be in the Army. He didn't want to be away from his family. And his daddy was after his mother died, he was a pretty good womanizer. And so that's pretty much everything you got anything else you want to say?
Questions?
Any questions?
Was Elvis a twin?
Was he a twin?
I don't know. I never heard that.
he
No.
I think he was, and his brother died at birth or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Conley?
I remember after he left, the Andrews kept the table and kept the dirty
Right.
on the table.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Take our tape,
Yeah.
all the way down the street.
Right.
And they let us in 2 at a time. 'Cause
Yeah.
they had dirty dishes.
You're exactly right. And we followed up the story on Sunday with pictures of these girls surrounding that table and taking turns getting a place to sit down there, just sitting down in that chair. It had some kind of magic to it or something. I don't know what it was. But
Tom, I don't know if we ought to mention this, but I think you said, tell him your story about that. So,
I was not one of those girls. I was wanted to meet because Christina Andrews, the granddaughter,
right.
was in my class. We were friends, called you too. She called everybody, the telephone tree.
Right.
Anyway, my mother, we jumped in the car as fast as we could. Got down there, but we were too late. He was gone.
Yeah.
So,
Well, she.
I'm guessing you knew about, they sent you up there, you all knew he was there because
Yeah.
it was across the
Yeah.
street almost or whatever.
Yeah. Bob's offering $1,000 if anybody can identify that other guy in that picture. I've had
I
more.
remember him now.
I've had more people ask me, who was that guy? He's wearing a suit. He's a young man, and he's wearing a suit. But I don't know. I don't even remember him being there because I was concentrating on Elvis and trying to get my words. And if y'all know how fast that was, I mean, you know, Texas Theater, Gil Griffin Printing, the loan company, the mayor's office on the corner, and then the library across the street.
Hillsboro Federal.
So and he was nice enough. I mean, he was nice, very cordial to me, and gave me and answered everything well, you know, that I asked him. But I didn't have much time to ask him anything. The girl that he mentioned in there, Ms. McGregor, she I don't know what ever happened to that family. Harvey was her son. Anybody remember Harvey McGregor? You remember him, Willow?
What was that?
Harvey McGregor?
Harvey McGregor.
Yeah.
What happened to
Yeah.
him?
What happened to him? You know?
He died 2 years ago and is married at Ridge Park.
Oh, I'll say. Did he stay here in Hillsboro?
Oh, no.
Okay, it was his mother.
He had no connection here.
Yeah, it was his mother. And
Remember, his family came here in the construction of the Whitney Dam. That's what brought them.
oh, okay. Well, she made me mad because I had a good lead. You know, you got to have a good lead to get people in there. And so the first thing I said, well, you got to lead with Elvis Presley. You know, that's what everybody was saying. So I put that as my lead. Well, she made it the headline. And I thought, well, why you do that? You know, you just killed my lead. But anyway.
Harry, when this is going on and you're about to go in with Grizzle and do that interview, down at the high school, I was in the lunchroom, and Sherry's cousin, Linda Bacon, some of you remember.
Yeah,
Mom
Linda.
Bacon?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Their older daughter, Linda, she came running into that lunchroom and, oh, Elvis is at Andrews. We've got to all go. Let's just
Yeah,
go. And she ran up to me. We were pretty good friends. And she ran up to me and I said, Linda, I wouldn't walk across the street.
Yeah. Well,
I just want to point out to you, I've always been a little different.
yeah. You know, Will, I hate to say this, but I felt the same way. I thought, what a big deal, you know. And but he did, you know. He's really more famous after he died. I'm serious now. He's more famous now than he was when he was living. And it's amazing. It's amazing that his heritage has lived on this long. But I want to tell you what, he could sing.
His dirty dishes look pretty nasty after about a week.
What did he say? What did he say? What?
His dishes are pretty nasty after a while.
Now, those of you that, and I'm glad you mentioned Andrews Cafe. Those of you who moved into Hillsboro in the last few years, and Andrews Cafe is where, I don't know what the bank's called now, but it used to be Hillsboro State. It was on the corner.
Frankie's, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, Frankie's is in there now, okay? All right. It's still back there. I mean, the cafe is probably in there somewhere because that's the building where that swallowed up Andrews Cafe.
Harry, the bank was very narrow. So when you walk in,
Right.
Frankie's, when you walk in, and you'll see that running down the middle of the restaurant is a broken barrier there. You know, it's not a solid wall; it's an opening. That was a solid wall, and so everything on if you eat in that little alcove back there, You're in Andrew's Cafe.
Yeah.
And where he cooks, where Millie cooks back there, that's Andrew's Cafe.
Yeah.
The bank was very, very narrow.
Yeah. But it fit perfectly between Texas Theater and the bank. And it was the place that everybody went. Now, are y'all familiar with the Elite Cafe in Waco?
Yeah.
Okay. I always thought Andrew's Cafe was sort of like the Elite Cafe in Waco,
The downtown.
the downtown one. It was a general menu cafe. You could just go in there and just buy anything. You could get a cup of coffee any time of day. My wife gets upset because she always wants a cup of coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Restaurants don't do that anymore. They don't make coffee in the afternoon time. The only one is make McDonald's, and she's mad about that. But Andrew's Cafe would do that, and you know, a lot of famous people. And I can't name any off the top of my head, but a lot of famous people came through there and stopped and ate because it was the cafe that was downtown. But just imagine all the traffic that we got on the interstate highway out here was coming down through that area. Whenever they moved it to the bypass, we almost had a war here among the merchants. They did not want the highway moved because it was a business situation with them. And they finally gave in, but Hillsboro was a booming town back then. We had
For many years, Andrew's was open 24/7, 7 days a week. They never closed. Two brothers,
right.
Gus and Jim Andrews, came from Greece. Now don't hold me to this, but about 1916. They did an internship in New York at the Waldorf Astoria. That was the pattern. When people would come from a foreign country, they would go somewhere and do an internship. And they came down here and they bought the Ornbom Hardware Company, which was in that building. No, I misspoke. They bought the S.L. Robertson grocery store. Ornbom was next door where the Texas Theater is, and opened that. And so from about 1916 on, from many up until through the Depression, that building never closed. Night or day, 7 days a week, 365. They were open.
Well, thank you, Will, for that. And you know, after the Andrews opened it, the succeeding owner, Nick Andrews, his wife was a teacher in the Hillsboro Independent School District, Helen Andrews, and his daughter that we mentioned here already collected all these pictures. Now she's got a wonderful collection. I saw them one time. She was back here visiting for homecoming. She showed them to me, and so she's got a wonderful collection of pictures of things that happened there, and of course of this event she does. A lot of those girls that we're talking about around the tables and whatnot, she has pictures of them.
Tricia, there's a picture in here of who's the girl that's in the little girl with Elvis?
Janet, yeah.
Who?
Sherry Howard's daughter. Sherry Howard. Oh, Jan.
Sharon Howard.
Yeah.
Would you write that on the back of that picture? Okay.
Yeah, which brings up another thing, that forever until about 5 years ago, what's Marilyn's first last name?
Who?
Who was the director here of the museum? Marilyn Hopkins. She didn't know who I was in that picture. She knew me, and then one day she said, we've been kind of wondering who that guy is right there. And I said, that's me. She said, no, it can't be you. He's got a flat top. And I said, I had flat top back then. but she didn't know who that was. And so we finally identified me.
Any other questions? And let me ask, would you be willing to, if anybody wants to step forward and talk to you, would you be
Sure, sure,
You'll be
sure.
willing to visit? And we're getting ready to recess. I want to thank Brenda White again for all you've done to make this possible tonight. And it'll be a time I'll remember a long time. I want to thank the Chairman Emeritus of the Hill County Historical Commission, Will Lawrence. All of you know what he means to history in this community. It's also his birthday. And would you join me in singing Happy Birthday to Will?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Will. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
There's also a birthday cake in here for Will. So would it be appropriate if y'all give Harry thanks for coming in here?
Thank you.